Y'all, was good. I'm in a good ass mood because it is Lunar New Year, aka the new moon. But okay, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Welcome to the Sabrina Scott podcast, where I talk all about how to claim your magic and change your life. And I feel like the countries that celebrate Lunar New Year really know what the fuck they're doing, because this is the second year in a row where, and I'm gonna have to look back into my history too and just see if maybe this is actually a pattern for me. Who knows? It was the second year in a row where around Lunar New Year I'm launching something new and crazy and ambitious. Last year it was this podcast, as well as a clothing line, as well as a YouTube channel actually, and it's been really awesome to keep the YouTube and the podcast happening for the past year, like these new rituals and routines and habits that slowly I've been building into my life and incorporating into my routine to the extent that I don't even really have to think about it anymore, and that's pretty fucking cool. But anyway, I think most of you guys already know what my project of this particular new moon is. I'll get to that in just a sec, but I really do feel like everyone who celebrates this moment, the Lunar New Year, as not all countries do, they really haven't figured out, because the energy right now is just fucking awesome. It's so good. It feels so much more refreshing to me than New Year's Day felt. Absolutely no shade on New Year's Day. You guys all know I love the calendar year as we do it up in here. I don't even know what it is, Georgian calendar, whatever, January, all of that. I love it. I think it's great. I do work with that when I plan out my year, but I do have to say that I really do feel this uptick in energy. I feel this refresh. I feel a renewal. I feel this wind in my sails in a way that I didn't quite feel. Like, I got a lot done in January, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it was conscious effort. It was discipline. It was all of that. Right now, I feel that the energy of this new moon, it really is pushing us, at least up here in the northern hemisphere, into this really lovely mini spring like energy. It really is this fantastic burst of inspiration, and it just feels awesome. And I'm sure that is helped by the amazing warm weather we had here in Toronto today. For anyone who understands Celsius, it was like 15 degrees today, Celsius. I was out with no jacket in Lululemon tights and like a very sheer long sleeve shirt with a vest, but I was fine, like no jacket in February. Usually, obviously we can talk about climate change and global warming and all that stuff. That's a whole different conversation. But I really have felt good about this fresh burst of energy, and also the fresh air. Like, the air just feels so ripe with potential to me right now for a variety of reasons. So if any of you guys have not really stepped into the new year, now is your time. Like, if you had a bit of a false start January 1st, maybe you made some commitments to yourself that you didn't keep. Maybe on in bulk, you were gonna recommit to your goals and vows, but you kind of didn't. Well, right now you are having another opportunity to recommit yourself to whatever those dreams, visions, and goals were. And this is part of why I really love the Wheel of the Year and thinking about time and ritual, because when we do that, we do have this constant opportunity to recommit ourselves to our path. We've got a constant opportunity to commit to the renewal of the self, which I personally just think is awesome. And so it's never too late, right? The time is now. It's a new day, seize the day, etc. It's just the energy right now is so good. There's no blockages. Shit is flowing in a really lovely way. And so I really would recommend just doing something with this energy right now. You don't have to build Rome in a day, but do something. Start something. If maybe it's that poetry book you wanted to write, and maybe I'm speaking about myself on that one. Maybe it is starting a podcast. Maybe it is signing up for a school. Maybe it is submitting an application to something. Maybe it's all the above, but do something. This weekend, do something. Take some kind of action, and the action should be something more than just journaling and reflecting. I do love that, don't get me wrong, but do some kind of action that moves you towards where you want to be. That's what I think is the vibe right now. Please just seize it, because the vibes are good and I don't want you guys to miss out on this amazing energy. So what have I done for Lunar New Year, aka the new moon of today? If you were listening to this on Saturday, it would be the new moon of yesterday. I launched a membership and community, and it is called the Claim Your Magic Membership and Community, or Community and Membership, whichever way. And I'm really stoked about it. And I think having a membership was something I had experimented with a bit earlier in my career. I'm sure you guys probably remember a Patreon that I started back ages ago in my late 20s. I'm now in my mid 30s. And I think that was the wrong order to do it in. I've been thinking a lot about this lately. Like, why does it feel like the right time to do this now? Why am I jazzed up on this now? Why do I think this is going to be a good idea? So I could talk about it in a business sense. I can also talk about it on an energetic sense. And it struck me lately that courses are a very masculine energy product. Courses are like the Emperor tarot card. They are powerful. They are potent. They are contained, right? There's a set number of modules. In my Without Bullshit courses, it's 10 modules each, 20 to 24 hours of videos, literally. It's like endless videos. And 100 plus pages of worksheets, literally. I go hard on those, and it is very structured. It is very clear. It is very organized, and it's this is the information presented in a very clear way. And so if you guys have been following my work for a long time, you'll probably know I've got a few courses: Tarot Without Bullshit, Magic Without Bullshit, and I'm currently working on filming Feminine Energy Without Bullshit. And part of me is like, I kind of feel like that's all the big ass courses I need to have made at the moment. That feels like a nice big and proper 3 pillars. And what's so interesting is a membership is a lot more of a feminine energy offering. It's a little bit more fluid. It is unstructured in a way. Like, it will have a structure. Like, there are certain things I will be doing every month in the membership. There are certain things I will be doing every week in the membership. But it will be fluid in that it will be responsive to the people in the community. It will arise from their needs, what I decide to teach. If everyone's struggling with deities, that's what I'll teach on that month. If everyone's struggling with ancestors, that's what I'll teach on that month too. And that responsiveness, that dynamism, that fluidity, that there is a container there, which is the slight masculine energy that's present, but it is so much more of an open, flowing, fluid, perhaps at times like chaotic, but in a fun way, open-ended type of offering, which is so much more of a feminine energy offering. And so if we think about this on an energetic level, and we think about how the masculine energy, which all of us need, I don't care what gender you are, we all need this to keep our shit together. The masculine energy container of, I guess, the structure of the membership. But first of all, the masculine energy container of all of my courses, and having that as this scaffolding, this backdrop, this statement on here is who I am and this is what I teach and here's what all I have to say about it. Honestly, these days, if anyone's like, what do you think about magic? Can you teach me magic? I'm like, I've got a book, I've got a course, the end. But the membership is going to be so interesting because it will have that openness and that fluidity. And it won't be as in-depth and masculine energy. Here is the information. Here is the step-by-step. Here it is all laid out in a very complex, yet simple, yet in-depth, beginner, yet advanced at the same time kind of way, which my courses are. They're incredibly in-depth. They're incredibly rigorous. Ask anyone who has been in them. They will tell you. And a membership is so much more open, experimental, exploratory, fluid. And so I think in many ways, it makes a lot of sense that I'm doing this now. Back the last time I had a little Patreon in my mid to late 20s, I didn't have that masculine energy in my business. I didn't have that masculine energy container of the courses. So I think starting off with that fluidity of that membership back then, it didn't work for me because I didn't already have the structure. I didn't already have clear outlines on my teachings. With each of my courses, I've got very clear outlines, very clear definitions, very clear methodologies that I present. And it's really great to have all of that backdrop, even just me making that into a course, me writing that in my books, putting that out there, having that scaffolding, having that very clear material out there. It means that now I get the chance to play a bit. Now I get the chance to experiment. Now I get the chance to create offerings that are just as fluid and mutable and changing and dynamic and flowing and creative as a membership right now. And that is a nice feminine energy space to be. And so it's very interesting that I'm doing this now, as feminine energy has been more of my vibe over the past year or two, in a more public sense anyway. And so it's kind of cool to look at this and this evolution for myself on this energetic basis, this yin and yang, this masculine and feminine polarity, duality, and these two things merging together in different beautiful ways. And just to see, what does this next phase look like? Like, I've already built the structure. I've built the courses. I've built the house, so to speak. And now we get to see, okay, what do we get to do inside the house? Which is the membership. What kind of games do we get to play? There's challenges. If you guys remember Magic May and Spiritual September from last year, that's all going to be happening in the membership. There's going to be a bunch of other stuff, 1 monthly training. So it'll be like a masterclass or a workshop or something kind of in between, which you guys will be able to request if you decide to join up. And this is insane. The value is fucking crazy, you guys. $37 a month and you'll still get 1 masterclass a month. Can you guys believe that? I've lost my mind. But I really want this to be a space where people can learn, and I want to be a space where maybe you're not ready for one of my without bullshit courses, whether that's financially, whether that's emotionally, whether that is, I don't know, like maybe you're just kind of dipping your toes into the magic tarot land and you're not too sure yet, like how important it is to you, or maybe you're just like too fucking busy right now to jump in, and I totally get that as well. And so this membership, this community is a space of experimentation, fun, play, trying things, having conversations, making connections. And I'm also committing myself right now to be sharing so much more of myself in that space. Obviously, with any community, if it's brand new, it's going to take a few seconds to start up, but it's interesting, right? I've been sharing so much on social media and on Instagram, and I'll still be sharing there, but the real intimate shares about my practice and my reflections specifically about my spiritual practice, that's going to be in the membership. You guys probably have noticed I haven't shared a ton about my own practice as much as I used to. And I think part of that is I generally have been sharing that with my students and with my coaching clients. You know, that's where that needs to be for me right now, I think. So anyway, I don't want to get too into the membership on this episode. I'll talk more about it probably in a different one, and the link to sign up or just to check it out, just like creep around the website will be in a link in the description of this podcast episode. So if you do want to go creep around, check that out, let me know. I will answer any of your questions. I've gotten a bunch of emails from people asking me some stuff about it. So ceo@sabrinamscott.com is where you can email if you're curious after you poke around and click that link and just see what's up. So that's my big thing that I've done for this new moon. And yeah, I'll talk more about the membership later. There's 2 tiers. One is called Spark. One is called Blaze, and I'm very thankful that no one has asked me if that has got anything to do with weed. No, it does not. I don't smoke. I'm like not a drug person at all. The reason for Spark and Blaze is it's references to our inner fire. It's references to that creative sacral chakra. And I know the sacral chakra is associated with water, but for me, that creative center has always been this kind of like the creative spark, the inner fire, the digestive fire. There's that movement between like digestion, creativity, incubation, processing, and allowing the inner fire that really starts there and moves up our body. If we want to think about it through the chakra system, we can definitely do that. There's so many different ways to think about it. But I really wanted to reference how important it is for all of us to connect with that inner spark and to reconnect with it and stay committed to that connection over time. Because it's so easy to lose it. You know, like I'm sure you guys probably have a certain perception of me, which is probably true. But I definitely know that if I look back at my history, if I look back at my relationship to my work, if I look back at my relationship to my art and myself as a creative person making things and putting them out into the world, I definitely know that there's been times that I felt super fucking inspired and like amazing, and definitely sometimes when I felt a little bit bored and just blah. You know, I think we've all been there in these waves of connection and disconnection. And the point behind this community really is that silly little jingle I keep saying, claim your magic, change your life. I fucking believe it. And for me, it's magic in a very literal sense and also a figurative sense. And I think the first episode ever of this podcast is why are so many witches miserable? Because they just do the literal witchcraft part. They don't do the other witchcraft stuff, or like, I guess this metaphor is a bit easier with the word magic. They do the literal magic stuff. They don't do the other magic stuff, right? The healing, the processing, the risk-taking when it comes to sharing our art. Living in a way that is in alignment with our values and being a good fucking person. That is that like the figurative magic, and that is what's going to make you happy and connected to this beautiful rhythm that is life, right? The literal witchcraft stuff, the literal magic stuff, hugely important. It completely changed my life. The most important part of who I am by far. At the same time, yeah, you'll probably notice a lot of witches are fucking miserable. That's why. It's because they're not doing the other magic stuff. Anyway, this episode is long enough, so I will cut it short in just a few minutes. One more thing I wanted to share. In the membership, I'm also going to be sharing, I used to do this on my newsletter a few years back, and I stopped, but what I'm going to start doing in the membership as well is to share some of what I am reading and listening to and thinking about, so that you guys have some cool, interesting shit to go read, listen to, watch. Because I think the more interesting shit we put into our brain the more interesting people we become and the more we learn. And it's not just the witchy learning, it's the learning about fucking everything. And the last few days I've been listening to podcast interviews with this guy called David Goggins. And I know his name's kind of hilarious, but I kind of think he's the best. And his story is really crazy. I'm not going to get too into it, but he was kind of miserable. He considered himself to be a complete loser. And then he became a Navy SEAL and got like super ripped and is this like motivational speaker, superstar guy. And he is just so fucking hungry for life and becoming the best he can be in all ways. And I first actually heard about him when he self-published a book, I believe, and it became like the most successful self-published book like ever. Don't quote me on that. I'm probably wrong, but it was a massive success. This, as far as I'm aware, self-pubbed book, which is like, that was unheard of at the time when he did this. And it was from, I haven't read the book, but I think it was a book pretty much just about being a badass, stop making excuses for yourself, and just fucking doing the thing. And I'm all about that. I think that is so awesome. And one of the things I noticed, one of his little quirks, as he does these interviews, he sometimes talks about himself in the third person. And it was a real big mindset shift for me when I heard him doing this. And one of the things he said was, you know, some people just aren't about David Goggins. And I don't know what it was. Like, there's something kind of hilarious about someone saying that about themselves and talking about themselves in that way. But it made me realize, like, fuck, I need to think about myself that way and just fucking own it. And to think about myself as this fucking cool being who is doing some badass shit, and this is what I stand for, and I'm gonna do my fucking best to take over the world with it in, like, a nice way. And if people aren't about it, then, like, fuck if I care. Like, right? And so, this sounds kind of silly, but if we can just jump off from that, you know, and if I can look at myself in the mirror and just say, yeah, some people really aren't about Sabrina Scott. Fuck them. And think about my name and myself as this energy, and just everything that I stand for, everything that I dream of, everything that I spend my time doing, all my dreams, hopes, and visions, everything that motivates me to show up and be the best I can be, help as many people as I can, and just to be like, yeah, some people aren't going to be able to fuck with Sabrina Scott. That's cool. And it sounds insane. It sounds kind of silly. And, like, when he said it on the podcast, at first, I was like, what? It was kind of jarring. But the more he, like, said various phrases in this way, the more I was like, damn, this guy has a fucking point. And try it. It totally made my day. It gave me the confidence I needed to deliver on some of the promises I made to myself that day. And I think there is something really interesting in terms of the mindset shift that is possible when we take a few steps back and look at ourselves in this way, as a force of nature, as someone who stands for something, as someone who's making a positive difference. And it's just awesome. So if we're thinking about manifestation, if we're thinking about mindset, just try it out. Do this David Goggins technique. He's hilarious. If you look him up, he's hilarious. I'm all about it. I think he's super cool. And I'll share one more thing that I learned from David Goggins today on the podcast as I was cooking dinner. He smoke jumps. And so what that is, this is what this guy does for fun. He has all the money. He does not need any money. But he is so committed to challenging himself and having new experiences and just pushing himself to the limit. I respect it so much. So he said on this podcast that these smoke jumpers, like the guys he's jumping with, they have like no clue who the fuck he is. They don't know that he's like a person who's important and known. And so these smoke jumpers, he said, I don't know if this is true, but he said on this podcast that they get paid like $15 an hour, whatever. And what they do is they basically helicoptered into like forest fires the example that he gave, I don't know how old this podcast was. He was in British Columbia, Canada, and they, like, there's certain fires that there's no roads. Like, you can't get there, like, through roads. Like, the fire people putting out the fire, they can't drive down the street to get to the fire. They have to be, like, airlifted in from the helicopter or whatever and, like, jump down and fight this fire. Apparently it's called smoke jumping. Don't quote me. That's what he said. And this is what this guy does. Just, like, battling fires in the middle of the forest. It's the craziest thing ever. And he's kind of nuts to do this, but it's also amazing. And in this episode, and I'll link both these episodes actually in the membership, but he explained why he does this and how it keeps him sharp, how it keeps him on his toes. And he was talking about how when you get successful, it can be easy to get complacent. It can be easy to become fucking boring and to start to wonder again, maybe I'm not all that I could be. And one of the things that he kept saying in this episode was, he's like, yeah, I don't fucking have that feeling. I know that I've reached my potential. I know that I'm always striving. I know that I'm exactly who I could have become. I've become that person. And part of it, obviously, he's a super intense dude. Not for everybody. But even if you're not going to be as intense as David Goggins, like, I am not going to go fucking jumping out of a helicopter to fight fires. That's just not something I'm ever going to do. And I know that about myself, and I'm fine with that. But I think we can all ask ourselves, like, what is that smoke jumping for you? For David Goggins, he's so intense and crazy and just does insane, badass shit to push the limits of what he's capable of. I think that's amazing for him. That was smoke jumping. Love it. Maybe it's something else now if this was an old episode. But for you, what the fuck is that thing for you? Is it writing a book? Is that your version of smoke jumping? You know? Because we're all going to have different relationships to fear, risk, getting out of our comfort zone, trying something new, pushing ourselves to our limits. And what I love about David Goggins, bless his heart, is that he is basically slapping everyone in the face to remind each and every one of us, and yes, this includes me, that we are capable of way more than we give ourselves credit for. Many of us quit way too fucking early, and we can all do and be more than what we are. We just often give up, or just we don't realize how much we're capable of. And so I want to leave you guys with that today, and I hope that inspires some reflection, some thought on you, your life. What are you spending your time doing? Who are you spending it with? What kind of person do you want to be? In what ways have you sold yourself short? In what ways do you give up before you even start? And in what ways are you being lazy? Like, I definitely feel called out by him for sure. And one of my big things for 2024, actually, I started this January 1st to call myself out on those moments when I feel lazy, when I'm like, oh, I feel kind of crappy, I'm gonna, stop working. It's like, no, push through. And I used to spend a lot of years pushing through when I was in my undergrad, but the last few years I haven't. It's like, if I feel a bit sick, I'll just not work. And sometimes it's great, but sometimes I'm being a wimp. I'm just gonna call it for what it is. Sometimes I'm being a wimp. Like, if I have like a slight headache or something, like, I will never like reschedule for students for something like that, but which is interesting, right? Like, it's easier to keep our commitments to other people and stuff like this. But I know that if it's just, oh, I have to write something, or oh, I have to draw a picture, oh, I have to design this or design that, I'm like, I can do it tomorrow. I have a slight headache. Lame. No more of that for me in 2024. And I've been hustling hard on a bunch of deadlines and pushing myself past the point of discomfort sometimes, and I have felt so awesome every time I've done it. And I'll get into this another time. Maybe I'll actually just link this in the membership as well. But there's research that's out there that by forcing ourselves to do certain things that we don't want to do, that are a little bit uncomfortable, certain parts of our brain develop, and basically the TLDR is it's very, very good for us. It builds a lot of resiliency. It builds like a lot of mental strength. It builds just a lot of great stuff health-wise for our brains to be able to have this self-control, to be able to have a long game perspective on something, to be able to like sit with that discomfort and have that mental clarity of why we're doing it, and have the eye on the prize, so to speak. Old cliche phrase, but definitely a lot of truth in that, right? And so all of that to say, with this new moon, let's pull it all together. New moon, membership, David Goggins. Okay. In a sentence, how does this all fit together? The new moon, the Lunar New Year, is your opportunity to start fucking fresh. Maybe my membership is one way to help you do that. And David Goggins, what he is saying about pushing yourself, taking risks, being fearless, and giving yourself the opportunity to become the person you fucking know that you can be. Why not just fucking leap? Why not do it? Why not take the risk? Why not push yourself a little bit harder today? You'll probably find that it's incredibly satisfying, and you'll probably like yourself a whole lot more the more you have the discipline to do the things you're afraid to do. I could say so much about that, about self-sabotage and fear and all of that, but I am going to leave that for another episode. I've already been talking for way too long. All right, friends, so membership, you can see the link for that in the description of this episode. If you can't find it, or if you've got questions or whatever, pop me an email, ceo@sabrinamscott.com. My Instagram, as you guys know, is Sabrina M. Scott. And my new Substack, which I actually have not talked about really on here, but there's going to be some paid content, some free content. I just posted a new article on there today, actually. I was interviewed by someone about a whole bunch of cool shit. It's a really, really good interview. You should go check it out. Sabrina.substack.com. Can you believe the OG URL? Crazy. Okay, that's it for now. Much love, my friends. Chat with you guys soon. Happy fucking Lunar New Year. I hope this new moon is everything that you need to get the wind in your sails onwards to the next adventure. Bye, friends.